We are on to the 5th video in our exploration of the divine feminine. In this video, we are going to connect with our inner Lalita Tripura Sundari. She is the goddess of erotic spirituality. As you get to know each of the goddesses, you will most likely really resonate with one or two. Lalita is probably the goddess that takes me furthest outside my comfort zone. I find those goddesses, the ones that you don't resonate with or that make you feel uncomfortable, are really interesting to lean into because they offer an opportunity to explore and possibly reignite parts of yourself that may have shut down. That is definitely the case for me when it comes to the Lalita energy. Since Lalita challenges me more than other goddesses, I thought I'd try a more sensual approach to her video. But first, if you'd like to start at the beginning of the Goddess series, you can click the link up in the corner or in the description below. And if you're new here, hi. I'm Kai, and this is Stephanie Danger. She serves as an alter ego for women who are done with the status quo and choose to live life by their own rules. We connect with Lalita's energy when we want to feel more connected to our bodies, our sexuality, and our senses, and when we want to tap into our sense of play and capacity to receive pleasure in daily life. Now, the idea of what Lalita offers, I find very attractive. But in reality, I struggle to stay connected with this part of myself. Being mindful of our breath is especially important when connecting with Lalita. We often take breath for granted because it happens so automatically. But breath is life. And so it is the first step in reconnecting with our erotic, sensual selves. As we prepare to connect with Goddess Lalita, let's place awareness on our breath to get grounded and open ourselves to her wisdom. If you're able, take a moment to close your eyes. Now take in a deep, slow breath. Notice your chest and belly expanding. Then gently hold this breath for 3 seconds with your eyes still closed. And then open your mouth slightly and gently allow the air to spill from your lips. Feel your chest and belly release. Notice how your body feels in this moment as we invite Goddess Lalita in. May she show up for us in magical and unexpected ways. So Parvati, who is the first goddess we met, she has several manifestations of herself. Durga, the last goddess we met, is one of those manifestations, and Lalita is another. We pick up Parvati's story when she is manifest as Lalita Tripura Sundari. To remind you, in Parvati's story, Shiva, Parvati's consort, incarcerated Kama, the god of pleasure, because he disturbed Shiva when he was meditating and pissed him off. One of the commanders of Shiva's army starts toying with Kama's ashes and makes a doll out of it that comes to life. The boy, known as Banda, bows down to Shiva and gets 2 boons. He will get 1/2 of any enemy's energy, and his arrows will cause the missiles and weapons of his enemies to fail. Shiva also, for some reason, grants Banda rulership of the world for 60,000 years. So it turns out since Banda arose out of Shiva's anger, he becomes an especially violent and dangerous demon. Okay. So there, you can still see my age spots and you can still see my freckles, like you can still see the imperfections. So Banda personifies what happens when erotic energy is violently repressed, especially as a result of severe abstinence, which is what Shiva is doing at this time in his cosmic journey. So after several failed battles to try and stop Banda, Lalita appears to battle the demon, and of course, he is finally defeated. I just want a bit of a glow. I don't need anything else. Okay, so back to the story. Kama, the one who was basically incinerated by Shiva, his wife comes to Lalita and begs her to restore Kama because he is the god of desire. And so she does, which in turn restores true balance in the universe. And desire is once again alive, but now under the control of Lalita. Lalita's energy can easily be lost when we get deeper into our 30s. It's a very embodied goddess, meaning she is inherently physical and requires energy to be expressed. And when we start to have kids and jobs and managing a household, this can absorb all our energy and leave nothing left for this erotic part of ourselves. Our culture holds less judgment of the mothering aspect of women, partly because we tend to remove the sexual aspect of women from that role. Think like the Virgin Mary. So whether we become biological mothers or not, we tend to lean into mothering those in our lives. Or we swing towards independence by tapping into patriarchal behaviors like hustle culture, right? Where we focus on achieving and acquiring things that we're told we should have. Basically, modern society makes it easier to focus more on support or hustle rather than desire, sensuality, and sexuality. Society's done a really good job of trying to shame those out of us. And so we turn to Lalita, the archetypal energy of the sacred sensual. She invites us to be fully embodied, fully awake, wholly self-possessed, and shamelessly erotic. Her gift is the bliss that arises when, through her grace, we recognize that every pore of our bodies, every eyelash, every movement of thought or breath is an expression of her divine play.
I find that the easiest way for me to tap into Lalita's energy is through my senses. There was this example I came across. An easy way to understand Lalita's alluring energy is to compare it to a flower's color or its scent and how it uses that to attract bees. I really love that. I just found it really helpful to have something in nature as an example to understand what her energy is about. Ka Ilahrim Hasaka Halahrim Sakalahrim. I haven't really focused on the mantras for the goddesses,
Although I find chanting mantras to be one of the most powerful ways to get into a certain energetic space. But I really loved the meaning behind Lalita's mantra. The first 5 syllables are said to express the power of insight. Those sounds bring about liberation. The second set of syllables express the power of action, and they bring about the attainment of one's romantic and sexual desires. And the third group of syllables express the power of the will or creative urge. They remove obstacles. Lalita has so many juicy invitations for us. As Sally Kempton says in her book, Awakening Shakti, reconnecting with our erotic selves can serve as a doorway into deeper levels of trust and safety in our bodies. Imagine that. When you've never had something, you can't possibly imagine what it would be like. And I feel like trust and safety in our bodies could be one of those things. What do you think? The more we get to know Lalita, the more she teaches us to be unaffected by other people's projections on us. There is actually a paragraph in the chapter on Lalita that I wanted to read. In internalizing Lalita, women become their own mothers. We learn to protect ourselves not by armoring against the demons of the dark masculine, as Durga does, but by loving that darkness into light, raising it to its heights, and then allowing it to permeate our entire experience inward and outward. If our tendency is to mother, who better to mother than ourselves? A few years ago, I took a virtual salon called the Well-Fucked Woman. I was single at the time, but it's actually a really powerful time to take this workshop. It was one of the few times in my life where I felt really deeply connected to my sexual power and pleasure. And after working with Lalita these last couple of weeks, I'm feeling drawn to revisit that salon. It was life-changing. I saw a difference in how I interacted with the world. I saw a difference in how the world interacted with me. It's kind of amazing the energy you can create from exploring this part of yourself. Anyways, if you're interested in diving deeper into how to fully own your sexual power, I highly recommend this 8-week virtual salon. It starts again in July. I think she only does it like once a year now. But if you're interested and want to find out more information, I'll leave a link in the description where you can check it out. Okay, so here's the thing. The repression of anger and sexuality takes out of play 2 very powerful energetic forces for change in our lives and in the world. Of course, it's no wonder the patriarchy goes to great lengths to suppress these aspects in women, but between Durga, who can help us with our anger and using it in healthy ways, and Lalita, who can help us reconnect to our sexuality and using that in healthy ways, these 2 goddesses can help us reclaim the power from these 2 energetic forces. I find that so exciting. This is how we change the world from the inside out. I always find it helpful if I can look to women in the real world who have a tendency to embody the qualities of the goddess that I'm currently working with, especially if it's a goddess like Lalita, where she's harder for me to connect with. There aren't a lot in the world to reference, probably because this quality in a woman is not revered and often shamed, but there are some. Cleopatra was a Lalita woman, and And Winston Churchill's mother, Lady Randolph Churchill, was a Lalita woman too. She was beautiful, fascinating to men, and ambitious. She founded a literary magazine, the Anglo-Saxon Review, outfitted a hospital ship and took it to Africa during the Boer War, had several lovers, and 2 much younger husbands. Now, you don't have to be that intense Lalita woman to embody some of her energy, but it does help to get a sense of what she is about. So Alison Armstrong is a woman who does work around relationship dynamics and intimacy. And she describes the temptress, which is a similar energy to Lalita, as a physical energy, like playfulness. And it's not an aggressive energy. It's very invitational. Imagine a warm fire inviting visitors. That's what it feels like. Because it's an energy, it's not dependent on what we wear or how we do our hair or makeup. When you're really tapped into Lalita, you can head out in a pair of sweats and a messy bun and draw people to you. When we tap into this energy, it attracts attention, it attracts physical affection and sexual interest. And that is where I kind of back away, because I get really uncomfortable when I stir up that energy and draw attention to myself like that. I get very, 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 very awkward. But I feel like that's a lot to do with societal conditioning, which I am never a fan of. I do not like it when I do things or make choices based on what society has decided. No. Okay. There's a dress in here that I bought maybe 5 years ago. And I swear that day when I was shopping, Lalita jumped into my head and was like, ooh, let's get that dress. I like it. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's get it. It's completely different to what we normally wear, but let's try it. Let's try this part of ourselves on. So I bought the dress and it sat in here for like 3 years probably. I think in total, I have worn the dress 3 times. It takes a lot of courage for me to put it on. So, if we're gonna work on Lalita, we'd have to pull out the dress that she told me I needed to buy. Even though we know at the end of the day, when you really get into Lalita, it's all about the energy. You don't even have to wear this dress. But I do think when you're like me and you're a little uncomfortable around this energy, wearing things that coax you in that direction can be helpful. There's a woman, Mama Gina. She's actually a very Lalita vibe woman. She says avoidance of pleasure is a trauma response. And I think that kind of explains part of my discomfort with stirring up this type of energy in myself. I am sure, even though I can't think of them off the top of my head, that in my younger years, I had experiences around my sexual energy that just told me it was better to just keep a lid on that. Sally Kempton says that the energy Lalita carries is potent and that it can be scary to express. But, and this is the part that I am learning to embrace, she also says it's better to reconnect with our fire and learn to manage it than to completely put it out. So, Lalita dress it is. I do find it's an interesting exercise to reconnect with our erotic selves just as we start to cross over into the invisible zone in society. I feel like it requires some courage, since expressing our desires in general, but especially in midlife, can be very confronting for a society that prefers we just poof, disappear. So there is an exercise in Sally Kempton's book that is meant to be practiced in active life as opposed to meditating and going inwards. The first step is to ponder a few questions. What qualities of Tripura Sundari do you feel within yourself? How have you expressed the empowered erotic feminine in your life? And how have you denied her? Once you contemplate these questions, the next step is to find one action you can do in the next 24 hours that will embody the radiant, erotic love of this goddess. What could it be? One way of connecting with this goddess archetype is by moving our bodies, and dancing is perfect. As women, we tend to store trauma in our root chakra. Moving our hips in circular motions can help to free us up and open us up. I think everyone has a thing that can get them through the entrance into embodying her. It's just finding out what that thing is. For me, dancing, it's one of those few things in my life where I lose the self-consciousness that I can feel I have as I walk around in the world. It's just a very freeing experience. That's what Lalita is all about, teaching us how to be free. If you think dancing is your thing, I put together a sexy Lalita playlist. It is a smorgasbord of hip moving, undulating type music to get your groove on. I will put the link to it in the description if you want to check it out. Sally says that going inward as a way to bring Lalita alive is a great first step. So if meditation is more your thing and going inward, there is one meditation in the chapter on Lalita. I think I did it like 2 or 3 times while I was working with Lalita for this video. Woo, it will take you on a journey. Even just thinking about it, I can like feel the energy that it created in me. The name of the meditation is The Goddess as Yoni, Uterus, and Heart. I think that tells you all you need to know. Other ways to embody Lalita is to do obvious things like work less, sleep and or rest more. You can do things to give you physical pleasure, like a massage or a bubble bath. I actually remember this one scene in the French movie Amélie. It's when she goes to the market and she dips her hand in a sack of grain, and there was just something so sensual about it. And I think just little things like that can be ways to embody Lalita's energy. One thing that is very important, and I don't think you can really do Lalita without this, is to own what you have without tying it to societal measurements. This means loving your body regardless of size, regardless of shape, regardless of age, regardless of health. You have to love it. You can move in ways that reconnect you with your body. We've talked about dance, but there's also yoga, exercise, sex, and very important, when you have extra energy, use it for play instead of work, instead of chores, instead of, oh, hello, internet scrolling. Use it for play. Lalita is here to remind us that the potential to experience pleasure is everywhere. She is the queen who rules through love. She stands in her independence but never sacrifices pleasure. She is soft and delicate and yet invincible. And she asks us, can you step into a radical state of empowerment? Can you allow yourself to be that abundant, that loving, that strong, that loved? Can you take that much pleasure in yourself and your life? Love you.